بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. حضار گرامی، جناب الدین ربانی وزیر امور خارجه افغانستان، برادر محترم، برادر عزیز احمد ولی مسعود رئیس عمومی بنیاد احمد شاه مسعود شهید، احمد مسعود، احمد زیا مسعود، وزرای محترم، سران سیاسی، سفرا و نماینده های کور دیپلماتیک، منصوبین وزارت امور خارجه، خواهران و برادران عزیز، اعضای محترم پارلمان، السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته. من هم به نوبه خود هفته شهیده که آغازش با روز شهادت قهرمان ملی کشور احمد شاه مسعود شهید و روز شهید است و مصادف است با شهادت شهید صلح پروفسور برهان الدین ربانی، رئیس جمهوری دولت اسلامی پیشین افغانستان. و مردم مسلمان افغانستان، به همه مردم افغانستان تسلیت میگم و در این هفته مردم افغانستان در سراسر کشور از شهدای خود قدردانی کردند. با اتحاف دعا بر روی همه شهدا برای افغانستان استدعای تحقق آرمان شهدا را که صلح پایدار و با عزت بود استدعا داریم. Lives of both martyrs that you see their pictures here, and we have gathered to celebrate their achievements, their life, their heroism, has come with lots of ups and downs, and it symbolizes the struggle that Afghanistan has gone through and the people of Afghanistan has gone through the past 4 or 5 decades. Shahid Professor Burhan Uddin Rabbani started his struggle over 50 years back and continued until the last date and gave his life for a very noble cause, which was peace. I may speak about 1 or 2 memories of mine or stories that I remember, but there are big lessons in these 2 stories. The transfer of power, peaceful transfer of power, 2001, after the 9/11 attacks, after the martyrdom of Shahid Ahmad Shah Massoud. There was a conference in Bonn where the representatives of the resistance as well as political groups had participated. And there were series of discussions, serious discussions about the transfer of power and also the future of the country. The most important thing envisaged during those discussions and meetings in Bonn was Loy Jirga, Afghan constitution, and elections afterwards. Of course, there were different views about it. And Foreign Minister Salahuddin Rabbani may remember that the day or that evening when the negotiations in Bonn concluded, in the morning before the news would be out, I went to see Shahid Professor Burhanuddin Rabbani, the president of Afghanistan then. And I had informed him that the meetings has reached to a conclusion, and Mr. Hamid Karzai would be the interim president of Afghanistan. He paused and he asked me that what about the leadership council, because there were discussions that there will be a leadership council at the top and then there will be the government. And I explained what happened about it. And we had like 4 or 5 minutes conversation. Then he said, okay, from now on what to do, and we discussed on the spot that date we should have announced the enrollment of the girls to the university, which was exactly what happened. The day that 5th of December, that the Bonn conference came to a conclusion, that evening the people of Afghanistan learned about 2 things. First, about an agreement about the future of the country, and at the same time, about the enrollments of girls to the university. The dark days, the difficult days that Afghanistan and Afghan people have gone through during the jihad and later on during the resistance, we all remember. What the women of Afghanistan went through, we all remember very well. So while that was the first opportunity for the leadership in Afghanistan to bring a change, in positive change, that announcement was made during the presidency of Shahid Professor Burhanuddin Rabbani. The transfer of power, peaceful transfer of power, which we didn't have any precedence in our history for that, that was a historical moment. Foreign Minister Rabbani also mentioned about Tajikistan in the peace agreement in Tajikistan. That was also the work of these 2 exceptional personalities, historical heroes of Afghanistan. Today, President Imam Ali Rahman he reminds us all the time during our meetings or in his speeches that they owe the peace in Tajikistan mainly into a big deal to the efforts of Shahid Professor Burhanuddin Rabbani and Ahmad Shah Massoud Shahid. This was the result of like 36 hours of continuous negotiations in Farhar Valley in Takhar province. And both of these leaders of us emphasized on the Tajikistan president as well as the leader of the opposition that learn from us, see what we have gone through and what are the challenges that we are faced with, and save your country. That shows, that's a symbol that those who care that much about a neighboring country, how much they were hoping for their own country in achieving peace, in getting to that. Jihad was a noble cause. Afghanistan people paid a big price, and it was a historical movement by the whole nation. And there the world stood by us. There were 2 camps at that time. The Cold War ended, the Soviet Union, old Soviet Union, disintegrated. And then we had other challenges afterwards. Then there was the emergence of Taliban. In the story of Tajikistan, I want to stay another minute. Had Afghanistan decided to host, while we hosted the refugees from Tajikistan, to host the militants from Tajikistan and to support them for short-term or short-sighted goals, there would have never been peace in Tajikistan. That's an example. That's a classic example of sanctuaries. At the same time, during the resistance against Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and terrorist groups and networks, they both worked together in leading Afghanistan in the resistance in Afghanistan, in representing Afghanistan, Afghanistan's values and independent Afghanistan idea and goals. During that period, Tajikistan helped us. The Islamic Republic of Iran, Russian Federation, India, and other Central Asian republics were sympathetic to us. But the rest of the world had forgotten Afghanistan. So that reminds me another memory, which is from Shahid Ahmad Shah Massoud. I had visited a few capitals around the world, Western capitals, and returned back. That was during the resistance. I was Deputy Foreign Minister at one stage, and later on Acting Foreign Minister, and I became Foreign Minister after the establishment of the interim government. When I returned back and explained to Shahid Ahmad Shah Massoud, the national leader of Afghanistan, that there aren't many hopes outside Afghanistan. We should rely on whatever we have. I mentioned those countries which helped us to some extent, which we were grateful for them. But at the same time, in the Western capitals, no wonder how much we would have emphasized, or we emphasized, on the threat emanating from Afghanistan, imposed upon Afghanistan, but at the same time emanating from Afghanistan towards the region as well as the rest of the world. There aren't many countries which would listen, because there were other preoccupations. And when I returned back from my trip, I explained, I briefed Shahid Ahmad Shah Massoud, and I told them that don't wait for the other countries to help us. I don't see signs of it, because everybody is busy with other, or preoccupied with other issues. Sometimes they talk about Osama bin Laden, but they expect us to capture him and surrender him, and that might be the answer or the way forward, but nothing more than that. And he told me, he said that, are you disappointed? I said, yes, absolutely. Because I see, it's not just our interest, I see that there is a threat to humanity, to the mankind, to our civilization. But the burden is left on the people of Afghanistan, and nobody cares. He said that don't be disappointed. Whether we will be alive or not, that's a different issue. Today there is a different situation. Taliban have successfully covered their real nature in face, and they present themselves as messengers of peace. And the people of Afghanistan, which are thirsty for peace, they welcome them. And also they talk about the rule of law in the other aspects of Taliban activities, their relations with the terrorist networks and so on and so forth. These other parts of it, neither the people of Afghanistan nor the world knows about it. But one day, they will show their real face to the people of Afghanistan as well as the rest of the world. And then you will remember that the aid, support, assistance will get here to this valley without us calling for it. Those were difficult years of struggle, and with lots of cost for the people of Afghanistan. Then we had the September the 9th, which two terrorists posed as journalists, they assassined Commander Massoud. And then 2 days after, there was September 11th events in New York and Washington. But prior to that, Ahmad Shah Massoud had, in an answer to a journalist during an interview, he had mentioned, the question was that, what's your message to President Bush? President Bush was newly elected at that time. He said that my message to President Bush and free world is that if you do not help the people of Afghanistan in achieving peace, these terrorist networks will hurt you. It's not us only. It's not just our suffering. You will suffer if you do not help the people of Afghanistan in establishing peace. While within Afghanistan, there was a united front which was representative of all the people of Afghanistan. But outside Afghanistan, it was called Northern Alliance. Northern Alliance was not the name that we had chosen for ourselves. It was imposed upon us because it was by design. They wanted to show that the conflict is between the South and the North. That was the effort. It's successfully accepted and perceived outside Afghanistan. And I hope that I will not go for too long about the memories of the past, but there are lessons for today and tomorrow. That's why I'm emphasizing on those lessons and on those moments. Once I was in Washington, that was July 2001 at the State Department. And Alan Eastham was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. He asked me a direct question. First, he asked me about the situation with the resistance, which I explained, and I also met Thomas Pickering, which was Deputy Secretary of State, or Under Secretary of State at that time. But in a meeting with Alan Eastham, he asked me that, don't you think if the resistance collapses in Afghanistan, that will be the beginning of the end of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan? I knew the argument because I had heard this argument from some of our own Afghan colleagues, those who wanted to project the struggle in Afghanistan as Pashtun, non-Pashtun struggle, as a civil war. I knew the argument, but I said that, please explain it to me. What do you mean? He said that we think that since the resistance is mainly by non-Pashtuns and Taliban are mainly Pashtuns, so if the resistance collapses in Afghanistan, then the Pashtuns will rise against the Taliban and Taliban will go to fall. Today, Pashtuns are united against non-Pashtuns in Afghanistan. That was the argument. But those were around the times that in the United States, they were thinking of if there is a possibility of supporting the resistance. Secretary Pickering asked me directly that if there was a situation that we can help the resistance, what are your needs? And ironically, our needs today, our needs then are more or less the same, because these helicopters was what I mentioned at that time, that these are amongst the priorities. And today also, if you ask our military security leaders, they will talk about helicopters. But anyway, and on the 5th of September the 5th, 2001, this issue of Afghanistan was discussed in one of the what they call it deputies meetings, National Security Council in Washington. And there the idea of supporting the resistance was raised. This is quoted from Ambassador Khalilzad at that time. It's in one of these books which was written afterwards. which Ambassador Khalilzad says that if we support the resistance, then the Pashtuns will hate us. That was 6 days before September 11th. 6 days only. And these were the discussions in Washington. September the 9th, Commander Massoud was martyred. September the 11th, I remember very vividly. I thought that he has brought a note that time is out, but luckily this was water, most needed. I was traveling to Tajikistan, and then in our embassy in Tajikistan, on the way to Dushanbe, I learned through BBC or Voice of America about the first incident in New York, and then about the second one. In our embassy in Dushanbe, I was traveling towards Afghanistan. In our embassy in Dushanbe, I saw the pictures, very vivid pictures of the towers in New York. That was the start of another phase. That was another turnaround in the history of mankind. During the Cold War, the world stood with us. Later on, they left us on our own. Then September 11th took place, and terrorists, which were harbored by the Taliban, hit the United States and the following events. Then we had the Bonn Conference and the establishment of the interim transitional governments in successive elections in different administrations. In the past 16 years, the world has stood with us, has made big sacrifices alongside our people, and 2 days ago was the anniversary of September, which we expressed our sympathy to the people of the United States, as well as our gratitude to their support and to their contributions. Countries around the world helped us. Their representatives are present here, and I want to thank you for your presence tonight with us, and also for all your contributions. But our journey together has not come to an end. We are still there. Afghanistan is still threatened by terrorist groups under different names. In Afghanistan, our people, our security forces are making big sacrifices in defense of our people in our country. We pray to the souls of the martyrs and honor their sacrifices. And tonight's calm in this part of Kabul is owed to the sacrifices of our security forces. Today there was a terrorist incident which innocent people were killed, died as a result of it. It was during a cricket match. And you see the two sides of the picture all the time. One side is the efforts of the people of Afghanistan to establish peace, to rebuild their country. And you have helped us. The world has helped us. And a lot has changed as a result of your help and support in the past 16 years. In the education, health, life expectancy, the infrastructure, in many sides, agriculture, in all sides of life, all walks of life. You have helped us. From the other side, normalcy, normal life, and lives of our citizens are threatened by terrorist activities. Recently, the United States announced its policy towards Afghanistan, and I think it's timely for our people and also for the countries around Afghanistan to re-establish the same consensus which existed at the beginning of the interim government in supporting in support of the people of Afghanistan, stabilization in our country, democratic process in governance. Daesh is an international threat. Other terrorist groups are not less a threat, neither to our people nor to our region. There are a lot of lessons for all of us, for all the countries around Afghanistan. Any country repeats the mistakes of the past will suffer from it. Its people will suffer, unfortunately. No country will benefit from supporting any terrorist group. And there are lots of examples of this, which I don't have to get into details of it. Security and stability in Afghanistan is in the interests of all the people of Afghanistan to begin with, but the region and also world peace. I was a bit concerned about the translation. That's why I switched to English. But allow me 1 or 2 minutes to speak in our own languages. تاشتولت استلیمش او شراغلاس بایم او دی وزیر صاحب امور خارجه برهان چهار وزیر صاحب څخه مننه کوم د دغه محفل په خاطر 4 کال په دغه وزارت کې د شهید اونۍ د شهید ورځ د سولې د شهید یاد او خاطره او د ملي قهرمان یاد په خاطر دلته دا بلنه او دعوت ورکوي کورنۍ و بهرنۍ شخصیتونو ته از اینکه اسامی بزرگای را که حضور دارن همه را گرفتن نتانستم معذرت ما را بپذیریم. با یک شعری از محب بارش مرحوم محب بارش یک شاعری از سرزمین پنجشیر صحبتهای خود به پایان میرسانم. من زخم خوردم، تو زخم خورده ای، ما زخم خورده ایم اما نمرده ایم. زیرا به قول شاعر رندان روزگار هرگز نمیرد آن که دلش زنده شد به عشق. ثبت است بر جریده عالم دوام ما، پس ما نمرده ایم، یعنی که زنده ایم. رستم به یاد اندوه سهراب گریه کرد. یعقوب کور شد به هوای شکوه مصر. فرهاد با فسانه شیرین به خواب رفت. اما تو زنده ای، مغرور، استوار، آزاد، سرافراز، سربلند. ژوندی دی افغانستان و السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته.